This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, episode number 112. If you want to lose weight, have a plan. Let's talk about what that means and how to do it. This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, where you'll learn how to build both a strong body and a strong mind by eating, moving, and thinking. I'm your host, physician, personal trainer, certified health coach, and certified life coach, Carrie Holland. Hey, how are you? What's new? What's good? So what's good here? We are going to talk about having a plan for weight loss. So I've coached enough women about planning that I think it's safe to say that planning ahead for your weight loss or planning ahead for your exercise or really any habit change that you want to make is essential. I have lost count of the number of times a client told me that planning ahead was key for her making real, legit change. And while that makes sense from an intellectual standpoint, I want you to walk away with more than just the message of plan ahead. So today, I'm going to share why and how it makes sense to have a plan. But beyond that, I'm also going to dive into some of the reasons that I've run into that caused you to feel resistance to planning. Because some of the women I've worked with really struggle to make a plan initially. And what I found is that there are some recurring themes that come up when you do have resistance to it. So we're going to pull them apart. So if you have ever struggled with creating a plan for yourself, or if you've struggled to make planning part of your wellness routine, keep listening because I think this is going to help you. And then beyond that, I'm also going to walk you through exactly how to make planning your meals easier. I'm going to get specific today so that you walk away and apply what you hear and prove to yourself that planning your meals is possible for you. It's not a big deal, okay? Because here's a spoiler alert, but one of the key things to consider about planning is that this does not have to be hard, okay? In fact, planning for your meals should not be hard. It should be fast, simple, and easy because that's the kind of plan that will work. So planning should not take you hours on end. And this should not feel like physics homework, okay? The whole point of planning is to make your life easier. And to that end, planning itself should be easy. And I'm going to talk you through how to set yourself up for success and make planning work for you. Because to be very simple, the key pieces you need to change your habits are three things: a plan, consistency, and patience, okay? This is straight back to the very beginning of this podcast when I laid out the three things you need in order to succeed at change. It's PCP, a plan, consistency, and patience. That's episode number 3. And what I'm going to do today is take the planning piece and blow it up for you so that this becomes a no-brainer. I'm going to make planning a no-brainer for you, and I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, so let's go. So first and foremost, let's talk about why bother. So why should you even bother to put together a meal plan for yourself? Okay, so a couple of reasons. First, when you create a plan, it means you are making a decision in advance. You are making a purposeful, deliberate, intentional decision about your food. You are declaring, this is what I'm going to eat today. You've decided. And you know I am all about making a decision ahead of time. And this goes back to your brain. So the more decisions you can make using your evolved prefrontal brain, the better. When you make a meal plan for yourself, you're thinking ahead and solving for how can I eat in a way that gets me closer to my goal? And you have to think it through. So when you write out a plan for a full day, for example, you can look at it once you've written it out and you can evaluate it. You can look and say, geez, this does not seem like very much protein. So maybe instead of oatmeal for breakfast, I'll have a tofu scramble. Or I don't have much fat in here at all. Maybe I'll add some avocado to my salad to make this salad more filling. So when you have a plan that you write out in advance, you can look at it before you execute it and make changes before you even put the plan in motion. But beyond that, when you make your decisions ahead of time using your evolved brain, you are eliminating the need for snap, last-minute decisions that are made using your unevolved brain, that part of your brain that wants what it wants and doesn't care about tomorrow. Okay, so if you have a plan for veggies and tofu at lunch, and then your coworkers decide to order pizza, you say no and stick with your tofu because that's what you planned. You don't have to think so hard because you've already made that decision. I'm having veggies and tofu today, period, end. You're not letting your primitive brain drive the bus here. That really is one of the biggest takeaways and one of the biggest benefits of planning ahead. Okay, so next, planning will also keep you from winging it. I will say this until forever, but winging it just does not work if you want to lose weight. So instead of winging it, have a plan. Because having a plan will keep you from declaring, well, I'll just make good choices. So I cannot tell you how many times a client has offered that as her approach. And while it sounds like a good idea in theory, I have yet to see it actually work for anyone. Because what does that actually mean? So what does that mean when you decide, I'll just make good choices? Does that mean you continue to make food at home, or does that mean takeout? And does that mean a salad from the restaurant, or does that mean half a serving of pasta instead of a whole one? What exactly does that mean? And the point here is that if you're going to go so far as to say, I'll just make good choices, challenge yourself to go just a little farther and decide what those choices are going to be. So something like, I will have half my plate filled with above ground veggies every night. Or if I go to a restaurant, I will choose one of either a drink, an appetizer, the bread basket, or dessert, but not all 4 of those. So you see what I'm doing? Get specific. Don't wing it. Don't just stop at, I'll make good choices, because that just does not tell us much. Okay? And another reason that planning will help, I touched on it just a second ago, but I want to spell it out here, is that specific beats nebulous every time. Okay? If you want to change the way you eat and you want to stop overeating, it's going to help you if you get really specific about what that means. So as an example, you could say, I want to eat healthier. But what in the world does that even mean? What does it mean when you say, I want to eat healthier? That does not really mean much to me. But what if instead you said, I'm going to eat an egg, half a cup of egg whites, an Ezekiel muffin, and a slice of cheese for breakfast today, instead of my usual bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch? And what if you took that approach for all of the meals that you eat in a day? You decide ahead of time exactly what you're going to eat. Well, now we've got something to work with. Now you're being specific and deciding for yourself what it actually means on a practical level to eat healthy. So when you're specific, there is no room for guessing. There's no ambiguity. There is a clear-cut decision, and then you practice it. There's no questioning. What am I going to eat for breakfast today? Because you've already made the decision. Okay? Next. Another reason to have a plan is so that you never walk into a situation not knowing what to do. So by nature of making a plan, it requires that you think ahead. It means you have to think through what your day and your schedule and your family schedule and all the family activities look like. And when you take your schedule into account, you create a plan that works based on where you need to be when. Because I don't want you ending up somewhere or caught off guard or uncertain what to do about eating. And having a plan will help you avoid this. So the most common example I run into with this is related to weekend kid activities. This one comes up all the time. So you'll tell me that one kid has a soccer game here, another kid has a swim meet there, and then there's a birthday party at 2:30 p.m. right in the middle of the day between lunch and dinner, and how in the world are you supposed to eat? And it is for exactly these kind of weekends where it will help you so much to have your plan ready. So if you know that you have to be on the soccer field from morning until lunch, and then you have to shuttle across town to swim, and you know you won't have time to stop at home for lunch, you've got a decision to make. So you get to decide, well, what do I want to do here? Do I pack food so I can make something myself that keeps me on track? Or do I go to this restaurant that I know is on the way to the pool and get this salad because I know it fits with my goals? Or do I wing it? Do I just make good choices? Okay, so do you see the difference here? When you've got a plan and you think through what is coming on your schedule, you won't be scrambling. You won't be dealing with the brain drama of what do I do? What am I going to eat? How do I decide? There's nothing on the menu here that works. I'm totally going to blow it. No, we get rid of all of that. And we get rid of all of that drama by you having a plan. Whether that means you pack a cooler of food as you're traipsing back and forth around town, or you choose in advance the restaurant that you're stopping at between kids' sport events after perusing the menu to find something that works. Whatever it is, you are prepared with a plan. Especially when you already know what your schedule and what your weekend and what your kid Uber day is going to look like. So again, my goal is that you don't walk into a situation scratching your head wondering, gee, what do I do here? So those situations ideally should be few and far between, because when you've got the plan, then your next step is to practice following it. And this is even the case for when you go out to dinner, okay? You do not have to walk into a dinner out and let that be a reason to not follow your plan. If you've thought it through and made a plan that if you go out to dinner, you'll get a salad and protein and you'll treat yourself with a fun dessert, then it's done. That's it. You don't have to have it nailed down to the gram of protein, but you do need a game plan. I want you walking into any food situation feeling confident and in control. And I promise you, winging it is not going to give you that confidence. Okay? All right, so next, Now that we've talked about why bother having a plan, and trust me, there are many more reasons to have a plan when it comes to your meals, but these are some of the big ones. Now, let's talk about why you might have resistance to creating a plan. So these roadblocks have come up repeatedly for many of my clients, and I'm going to bet that they've come up for some of you. So let's talk about it. So first, one of the reasons you may feel resistance to creating a meal plan is because you're not exactly sure what to do. So you may know, okay, I want to eat healthier, but on a practical level, you may not know what that should look like for you as far as planning goes. And if that's the case, I can help you with that. I have created a number of different podcast episodes about how to eat, and those episodes will give you details so you can decide how you want to approach your meals. Last week even, I talked about protein, including what to do if you're plant-based. Episode 102 is all about calories, macros, and meals. Episode 85 is about snacking. 70 is all about losing weight without counting calories. And 30 is all about macronutrients. And those are just a few examples. So if you do not know where to start, you can go back to some of those episodes and take a listen. But beyond that, you already know a lot and you don't need a super fancy, wild program to help you lose weight, okay? You know to aim for largely whole foods, so things that come from the earth instead of things that come from a factory. Less processed stuff, more fruit and veggies, lean proteins, and whole grains. And as a rough guide to start, you can aim for at least 1/4 of your plate to be protein, 1/4 to be whole grains or below ground vegetables like potatoes or other root veggies, and then the remaining half of your plate can be made up of above ground vegetables. Those are more water-based and less carb dense. Honestly, I know that is very, very simple, but I don't want you to have to think too hard about this. I don't want you to get so bogged down by creating a plan that you don't do it. So I want to give you the most simple way to think about your meals. Okay? So next, another reason that you might feel resistance to creating a plan is that you think it will be hard or time-consuming, or that it will be restrictive, or insert your negative adjective here. So I'm sharing the 3 adjectives that come up most commonly for my clients when they've felt resistance to creating a plan, and that is hard, time-consuming, and restrictive. And in response, I would simply offer this. What if none of that had to be true about creating your meal plan? What if making your meal plan did not have to be hard at all? Because it really doesn't have to be. What if it could be easy? Because making your meal plan will only be hard if you decide that it's going to be hard, and then you go and create that reality for yourself. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about writing out what you're going to eat. That's it. You decide how many meals and snacks you're going to have. You decide what those meals are going to consist of and what they're going to be, and then you write it out. That's it. And truthfully, that should not be hard. And it also should not take you much time. So yes, sure, maybe the first few times you sit down to write your plan, it may take a little longer, but honestly, after that, it should not take you long to create a plan for what you're going to eat. And you do not have to create an entire plan for the week in one sitting if that does not work for you, okay? You can plan one day at a time. You can plan 2 days at a time. It really doesn't matter. You can decide that before you go to bed, you will make it a point to plan out all your meals for the following day and write it in a notebook, and that's it. And you do that every night. You pull out a journal or an app or a notebook or whatever it is that you use, and you write out what you're going to eat for the next day. And it shouldn't take you a long time to do this. We're talking 10 minutes or less here. This is not a huge time commitment. And last, you do not have to make your plan restrictive. In fact, that is exactly the opposite of what I would suggest that you do. One of the benefits of planning your meals is that you decide how, when, and how often you indulge and treat yourself. And that's part of the process of changing the way that you eat and stopping overeating. It's learning how to eat foods that you enjoy or foods that you would consider treats without it turning into a free-for-all, without it turning into a food bender. Because the plan is not going to work if it does not include foods that you enjoy. And we need to figure out that balance. We need to figure out the balance of having foods that you love while taking into consideration that not every meal can be an event. Not every meal can be rich and loaded and indulgent. So when you create your meal plan, you get practice in finding that balance. You make decisions in advance about how you will treat yourself. You're not being restrictive here because restrictive doesn't work. Okay? All right, next. Another reason that you might feel resistance to creating a plan is because you think it will take away all spontaneity from your eating. And when I run into this type of resistance, it's often because there is still work to do around making decisions ahead of time versus making decisions in the heat of the moment. So in my coaching experience, most times people have a hard time making a plan because they want the freedom of spontaneity. But what it really translates to is wanting to be able to eat whatever, whenever. And the problem with that is it generally doesn't work if you want to lose weight. when you make the majority of your food decisions in the heat of the moment, you're generally thinking with your primitive brain that wants what it wants 5 minutes ago. So when you're making decisions in that moment, you're generally not thinking about how you're going to feel tomorrow about the pizza and cupcakes that you ate today when your coworkers asked you to order food with them. Most decisions that happen spontaneously do not involve salad and veggies and protein. Okay, I'm just saying. And for some of you, you don't want to give that up. Some of you have told me straight up that you don't want to make a plan because it means not being able to say yes to pizza and cupcakes with your coworkers, or having ice cream with your kids on a random summer evening when you're out on your bikes and past the ice cream shop. But when you decide to go with it and get the pizza or get the ice cream or have whatever it is that comes up spontaneously, instead of following your plan, you're choosing the here and now over the long-term goal. And while the treats and the pizza and the ice cream are fun in the moment, it doesn't help you later. So when you tell me that you don't want to make a plan because you don't want to lose that spontaneity, think about the message that you're sending to yourself about your goal, okay? Because often that message is, this goal is not as important as this pizza or this ice cream. You put the goal on hold for whatever food is in front of you, okay? Really think about that. At the risk of catching some heat for this, I'm going to put it out there. Sometimes you want to hang on to that spontaneity and eat whatever, whenever. And by making a plan, you fear it will take that away from you. And I'm sharing this because it has come up for a number of my clients. Sometimes when food becomes a source of entertainment, or if food carries an unhealthy level of importance in your life, then it would absolutely make sense that you would not want to commit to a plan that would take out that spontaneity, because in essence, it's taking away all of the fun that you get from food. Some of you have told me straight out that making a food plan is taking all of the fun out of eating. And if that's the case for you, and if that's where the resistance is coming from for you, I would encourage you to think about how you're using food. So I've said it many times, and I'll say it again here. I get that food is more than fuel. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that food is nothing more than fuel for your body and it should be treated that way. No, I fully recognize that food needs connection, family, tradition, culture, and that you can get joy from food. I acknowledge that. But at the same time, there is a healthy balance here. If you are constantly looking for food to entertain you and it's getting in the way of you being able to make healthy decisions for yourself, then let's talk about that. And what that tells me is that we need to find other things besides food that bring you joy, okay? So yes, it is perfectly okay to get joy from your food. But when it gets to the point that seeking joy from your food is keeping you from reaching your other goals, then I think there's a problem to address. And the problem happens when you expect food to be your source of pleasure, or when you rely on food for pleasure, or when you don't have enough pleasure or joy or connection in your life, so food becomes the focal point. So we need to work on finding other ways of bringing joy in your life in addition to food. And at the heart of this, I would simply argue that you're not taking anything away from yourself by making a plan. Remember, you are the one making the plan. So you decide what and how much you're going to eat. You decide how to treat yourself and how you're going to indulge. You're just deciding it in advance instead of being wooed by a friend who catches you off guard with a cupcake, okay? And you're also giving yourself space for when you are met with spontaneous plans. So say you planned for fish and veggies for dinner, but friends stop over unannounced and they want to go out. Go, okay? Go to dinner. But go with a plan in mind that you think of in advance. So you can think to yourself, okay, I made a plan to have fish and veggies tonight, but now we're going out. So I'll check the menu and I'll choose something that is similar and I'll find a lean protein and a veggie at this restaurant. Or I will get creative and see what I can pull from the menu that still keeps me on track. I've decided already that I'm treating myself this weekend with ice cream with my kids, so I'm not having dessert tonight or something like that, okay? Do you see what we're doing here? No matter what happens, you've got a plan. Even if you're met with spontaneous dinner plans, you've still got a plan, okay? And last, one other reason that you may feel resistance to creating a plan is because once you do, it's out in the world. It's real. And once it's real, you either follow the plan or you don't. And for many of my perfectionists out there, that is enough to turn you off before you even get started. So when you go to the trouble of writing your plan, then you have something to measure yourself with. You can look back and see, well, did I actually eat Greek yogurt and berries this morning like I said I would? Did I actually eat chicken and broccoli and banza pasta for lunch like I said I would? And for some people, you don't want to create the plan because you don't want to run the risk of not following it perfectly. Because if you don't create the plan and if you don't write the plan, then you can't fail at it. If you don't write it, then there's nothing to follow, so you can't fail. Again, it's going back to being nebulous. When there's no standard that you've created, there's nothing to measure yourself with. You can't fail. And again, at the risk of catching some flack for this, I would argue that you're actually failing yourself ahead of time. You're letting your fear of imperfection keep you from getting started in the first place. And that can be a very stifling, suffocating place to be. When you're stuck and wanting to change something so badly, but at the same time, you're unwilling to put it out there. You're not putting it out in the world to try. The fear of not doing it exactly right stops you. But let me ask you this. What happens if you write the plan and you don't follow it? What is the worst that happens? So I'm asking this very question because I've asked it before of clients who have expressed resistance to writing a plan. And more often than not, the answer is the same. The answer is, I would feel bad about myself. I would feel disappointed. And then if you have been around here at all, you know what my follow-up question to that will be. And then what? So what is the worst that happens if you don't follow your plan and you feel disappointed? What happens? Do you keep getting down on yourself? Do you say all kinds of mean things to yourself? Do you spiral about how losing weight is so hard? Do you stop your plan? And these are some of the things that come up for my clients. And what almost always arises is that she will feel disappointed and then stop following her plan. It's so interesting. She doesn't follow the plan and she feels disappointed and uses that as a reason to stop following the plan altogether. Do you see that? It's a fascinating cycle. But I bring it up because it does not have to be this way. So if you have been with me at all, you know how I feel about failure. We are all subject to it. No one is immune to it. So please do not use your fear of failure to follow your plan as a reason to not create a plan for yourself in the first place. I have seen this way too often, and it's a hamster wheel that gets you absolutely nowhere. I want you to have a plan. I want you to practice following your plan. I want you to have some failures because those are your data points to tell you what is not working and what needs to be adjusted. That's it. The failures are truly nothing more than an opportunity to course correct. They are not a reason to stop or avoid getting started altogether. Okay? I've talked about failure a lot on this podcast, and I will say this again for anyone with ears. If you have decided that you cannot fail, then you've decided that you cannot change your habits, change your life, or lose weight. Okay? I really stand by that. If you've decided that you can't fail, then you've decided that you can't change. So if you want more for yourself, accept that there are going to be some off days in the process. Wrap your mind around the idea that not every meal or every day is going to be exactly on plan. Decide how you're going to treat yourself when you do fail. And if you work with me, that is something that we zone in on because it is just that important. Most of the women I work with are downright mean to themselves when they fail, and we've got to change that. And at the core of it is working on acceptance that each one of us is human, and by nature of our humanness, we are going to fail. But that is not a reason to give up trying. Okay? So please do not let the fear of failing to follow your plan keep you from trying in the first place. That is failing ahead of time, and it is entirely selling yourself short. All right, so now let's switch gears here and get you set up for success. So how do you actually make planning work for you? And I'm going to share how I coach my clients to make planning work no matter what they do for a living and no matter what their schedules look like. Because I work with women who have all kinds of jobs, including some who work weekends. And I want you to know that planning can happen at a time other than Saturday or Sunday. Okay? So first and foremost, I know this sounds funny, but I would encourage you to find a time to plan. You need to plan for your planning, okay? And I know that may seem funny, but in reality, the plan doesn't just will itself into existence. If you're new to planning, then you're going to need to find some time to do it. So for some of you who do not work on weekends, it may make sense to make your meal plan then. If you do work weekends, or if your schedule varies week to week, then it means you'll need to look ahead and find a time when you're not working, put it in your calendar that this is your time to make your plan. But I cannot stress this enough. There has to be some time set aside in your life and your schedule for you to sit down and do this. And again, this is not hours that we're talking about here. This is short. I don't want you spending too much time racking your brain on this, okay? And as you're thinking about when you're going to plan, I would encourage you to decide how many days you're planning for. Some of you like to plan out all of your meals for the week in one sitting. Some of you may prefer to do a few days at a time, and it really does not matter. You decide what makes the most sense for your life, and then you stick with that, okay? And then to piggyback off this, when you do sit down to plan, decide what exactly you are going to walk away with, okay? So if you sit down on a Sunday to plan, decide what you are going to have by the end. Are you going to have a schedule of breakfast, lunches, dinners, and snacks for the entire week? Are you going to plan from Sunday to Wednesday and then plan for the rest of the week on Wednesday? Are you going to have a grocery list that you make as you plug in your meal plan? What is it going to look like for you? So make that decision. It does not matter how you approach your meal planning, but I would only encourage you to know what your goal is when you sit down to do it. Consider what you want to have decided by the time you're done and then plan for it. Okay, next. When you are creating your plan, please remember to include weekends in it. I cannot stress enough how important this is. I have seen numerous clients run into this roadblock where they'll have Monday through Thursday all set and ironed out, but then come Friday afternoon until Sunday night, it's a free-for-all. And I promise you that just does not work. That is not going to get you where you want to go, okay? So remember that the weekend, from dinner Friday to dinner Sunday, encompasses 7 meals. That's assuming you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So from Friday evening to Sunday evening, that's 7 meals out of 21 meals that you eat in a full week. So that's 1/3 of your meals that are happening on the weekend. So if you don't have a plan for 1/3 of your week, that is probably not going to help you lose weight, okay? So make sure that when you're making your meal plan, you include your weekends. And you may be wondering, well, what if you're planning to go out? You can have a plan for that too. You can decide, okay, I'm going out for dinner Saturday night. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going, but I'm going to splurge on my main dish. And if we go somewhere that has French fries as a side, I'm going to have them, but I'm not going to have an appetizer and I'm going to skip alcohol and dessert. Or you can decide I'm getting a salad and fish and I'm going to get a really fabulous dessert. You can choose how you're going to treat yourself and you can make that decision in advance, even if you have no idea where you're going for dinner. And I would say that this is especially important if you go out for multiple meals over your weekend. So again, knowing that weekend meals constitute 1/3 of your weekly meals, it's easy to see how a weekend of meals out can derail any progress that you make during the week if you go off the chain and decide that all bets are off over the weekend. And I've seen this play out for multiple clients where their weeks are scheduled and planned, but then the weekend comes and they don't have a plan, and then they go out for multiple meals, they eat whatever and end up at maintenance. It's a common roadblock and it happens frequently. So a way through this roadblock is to have a plan that includes your weekends, okay? If you want to lose weight, all bets are not off from Friday night to Sunday night, okay? Next, another way to make planning work for you is to save the plans that work so that you can reuse them in the future. So if you have a week where you write out your meal plan and then you stuck to it, you felt good on it, it was relatively easy to execute, and you liked what you were eating, that one is a winner. So do yourself a favor and hang on to that plan, okay? This is helping your future self with a success out the box, okay? Because you can use that week for other weeks when you don't have a lot of time to plan, or you don't want to think that hard, or you need a plan for the week that you come back from vacation. So you've got it. You've got it in reserve. So you can also hang on to this plan to come back to if and when you fall off the proverbial wagon, okay? So let me explain what I mean by this. If you go off the rails and start doing whatever, and you're not following any sort of plan, and then you've gone back to winging it, but you want to get back, you've got a plan. It's already done. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to spend a ton of time thinking about what to do. You just go back to this plan, pull it out, and commit to following it. You're going back to what works, okay? All right, and then just a few more things to consider here. So I want you to have a plan for if all else fails. So say you're hearing all this and you're not sure and you're not convinced that planning is going to work for you. Or if you're listening and thinking to yourself, there is no way I can plan that much. Okay, I hear you. I've had some clients say exactly that to me. And my challenge to you would be this. If nothing else, before you go to bed tonight, write out exactly what you're going to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks if you eat them for tomorrow. That's it. Think about what you've got in your fridge and in your pantry and make some decisions about tomorrow. And if you know that you've got absolutely nothing in your kitchen and you were planning to go to a restaurant or drive-through or get takeout tomorrow, decide what you're going to get now. Write it down and stick to it. That's it. You don't need to plan the entire week. You don't need to walk away with a full-on grocery list. You don't even have to think about the weekend yet. You're just going to plan for your meals tomorrow. That's it. Try writing out your meals for one day, just one day, and then try following it. See what happens. This is still planning, okay? Having a meal plan for one day is still planning, and it all counts. And again, it all goes back to making decisions ahead of time. And then you practice following through on those decisions. That's really what planning is all about. You're deciding ahead of time. You're creating a plan with your goals in mind instead of making decisions in the moment that feed your brain's desire for instant gratification. And you're practicing the execution of your plan. And the more you do this, the easier it will become, okay? Because planning really is going to be your key to success, whatever your health and fitness goals are, okay? And then last, one more time, remind yourself that this does not have to be hard, okay? In fact, meal planning should not be hard. If you are spending upwards of 30 minutes to an hour writing a food plan, we need to talk, okay? Meal planning is not intended to be hard. It will help you build accountability. It will streamline your meals, but it's not meant to be hard. Meal planning is a tool to make your life easier. It's a way to save time and energy during your work week when things are crazy and busy. It will keep you organized. It will keep you from asking, what's for dinner? And it really is the key to changing your habits, no matter what your goals are. All right? And if you want help with this, let's go. When you coach with me, I will help you create a meal plan. But then more importantly, I will help you follow it with the tools that you need to make it a lifestyle. Check out my website. Go to www.carriehollandmd.com/contact to schedule a consultation so we can talk about how coaching will change your approach to eating and thinking. All right? Thank you again for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you again next week. Hey, if you're looking for your next great read, I've got you covered. Head over to carriehollandmd.com/books and download my list of most favorite reads. I've got 2 collections waiting for you. One is all about work-life balance. The other is a collection of books that have changed my life. I've referenced many of these books in the podcast, and now you can access those titles all in one place. Again, that's carriehollandmd.com/books. Check it out and find your next great read. Thank you for listening to the Strong is a Mindset podcast. If you want to learn more about how to build both a strong mind and a strong body by eating, moving, and most importantly, thinking, check out carriehollandmd.com.